People don't like us because we smile. People don't like us because we tell them what they want to hear. People like us because we bring value to their life. And so, if you're bringing value, that means that you are showing up in the truth of who you are.
Welcome to Climbing the Corporate Ladder Without Breaking a Heel. I'm your host, Dr. Cynthia. With over 30 years in the corporate world as a single mom, cancer survivor, and often the only woman in the C-suite, I understand the balancing act high-achieving women face. Now an executive coach and international speaker, my mission is to embolden every woman in the C-suite or on the rise to claim her agency and challenge the norms holding her back. Tailored for ambitious professional women, this show features candid conversations with powerful business leaders sharing their real stories of success and failure. If you're ready to look up and step up, you're in the right place. Join us and invest in your future today. Hello and welcome back. I'm your host and your coach, Dr. Cynthia. I want to ask you something before we begin, and I want you to sit with it honestly. Do you know what's inside you that you've not yet used? Not what you've delivered for your organization, not what your performance review says, not what your LinkedIn profile reflects. What's inside you? The version of you that is more capable, more clear, more aligned, more you. That has been waiting for the right conditions, the right title, the right moment to actually come forward. Most women on this ladder are not underperforming, quite the opposite. They are underliving. There's a gap between what they're capable of and what they're currently allowing themselves to become. And that gap has a name. My guest today built an entire methodology around closing it. She is a nationally recognized self-esteem, branding, and communications expert. She's coached over 500 small business owners, worked with more than 100 organizations across 9 industries, with a 95% of who come back, I might add. She's written 7 books, including Self-Esteem for Dummies and Harness the Power of Personal Branding and Executive Presence, among others. And she has increased her clients' incomes by as much as 113% and helped businesses grow revenue by as much as 900%. And she built all of it through disciplined, documented work of becoming who she knew she was called to be and teaching others how to do the same. Her framework is called There Is More Inside. And today she's going to show you what that means for the woman on this ladder who knows she's not yet become who she is capable of becoming. I think that's all of us. We all have more to become. Welcome, please, Miss S. Renee Smith. S. Renee, so thrilled to have you on the show.
And I am excited to be here and to be able to just indulge in this conversation for women.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
needed. So thank you.
absolutely. And your work is so incredible and so timely. This particular month we're focusing on the potential that lies within all of us. And I think we all have, I think about potential as muscles, right? If you don't develop it, they atrophy. And if you keep working and developing, they just become bigger and greater and more powerful. But I'm curious about that moment in your life. I always love to start with the origin story. What was that pivotal moment for you where you understood there was more inside you?
Good question. So the whole idea of There's More Inside started when I was fired from a job. I was diagnosed as being depressed, and my fiance walked out of my life. So all of this happened at the same time, thankfully, because if it didn't happen at the same time, then There's More Inside would have never been born. I
Mhm.
found myself in a place of wondering what is next for me? What is my purpose? Why did this happen? What did it mean? Um, how do I pick myself up from here and build
Mhm.
something meaningful? And There's More Inside was born.
Wow. Wow. I'm sure there is not a person listening who isn't, first of all, wow, that's a lot. right?
Yeah.
But has I think each of us have had some point in our lives where life got really messy or we sort of
Mm,
got kicked in the teeth and you start to really doubt yourself. You start to really I mean, I would think in those moments with all of that going on, there's a little bit of this reflection of, "Oh my gosh, what is wrong with me?" And yet you flipped that from a what is wrong with me to a what is right with me.
absolutely. And it's interesting because you're right. The first place to go is what is wrong with me. The work takes you to what is right with me.
Yeah. I love
So,
it.
as you think about yourself and where you are in the moment, no matter where you are, it is what are my strengths? Not what
Mhm.
are my strengths in terms of skill set? What are my strengths in terms of resiliency? What are my
Yes.
strengths in terms of looking within and seeing what is it that drives me? What is it that wakes me up in the morning? What
Mhm.
what do I want to leave this planet with?
Right.
Those are strengths. That's what was guiding me at that time, through the process, and
Yeah.
I was absolutely held up by a force greater than myself.
And I think many of us can relate and appreciate that for sure, and I agree, I think every single human being I like to say every single person has natural talent, every single person has potential. The question is for what, right? Sometimes we
Yeah.
chase these false things because of the allure of what we think they're going to be for us to only find
Mhm.
out they're not nearly as, fabulous as we once thought. You brought that then you framed this into "There is more inside," which I love "There is more inside" and that whole naming convention. Talk about can you define that? I mean, you started to a little bit allude to it, but talk about what that really is at its essence and what does that do?
Yeah, yeah. It does a lot.
Yeah.
And what I mean by it does a lot is the outcome. So, but let me share with you the intention
Yeah.
of it. The intention is to, shift old mindsets and old beliefs,
Mm,
and give people a new framework and a new lens to see themselves, the world, and their ability to achieve success.
mhm. Yeah, which is huge, right? Dealing with that internal saboteur. I had another guest who actually names she suggests, name that internal saboteur. Give her some, it's that side of you that you need to mute occasionally. What do
Yep.
you think what is shifting for women when women in particular for them to get from the messiness of life and maybe not being as clear about what's inside of them to these outcomes of 113% increased income and all the amazing
Yeah.
successes you've had. What's the biggest shift that has to occur that you find?
I think it's identifying their pattern because
Mm,
locked in your pattern is a behavior, and that behavior is creating your life. And so understanding what did I inherit or how do I function, and really understanding what do I am I consistently doing over and over again. I want to share with you because I love stories because I feel
mhm,
stories help people to see themselves. I was coaching a group of women. There was about 10 of them. And there was a lady who was a senior leader, and she started everyone had to introduce themselves. And so she started with, I'm divorced, and I am a single mother.
mm,
That's how she started, and it started by introducing herself. My concern with that is that she identified with the loss
right?
and not who she is and the value that she brings. And oftentimes, we were talking earlier about the time when I had a loss. And even
Mhm,
though I was in the midst of the loss, I was trying to find the path. And I think that with many women, we don't look for the path, we sit in the moment. And as
Interesting.
a result, we get stuck and we don't even realize we're stuck. We continue to perform versus really understand what has happened in this moment. What value does it bring to my life? What have I learned? And who am I now?
Mm, I
And
love that.
I think that if I were to put anything out there, it would be that is that we just keep performing.
Mhm.
We have to keep the face. We have to keep going. This is too embarrassing. Like we label everything that we're going through, right?
Right.
Oh, I lost. Oh, I'm no longer married. I'm a single mother. Oh, I didn't get the promotion. Oh, should I even apply for the promotion?
Sure.
Right? So
Sure.
we're playing all these mind games with ourselves
Right.
when, I label confidence as, or I define confidence as trusting your opinion of yourself more than you trust other people's opinion about you. And if we can sit in that and recognize the opinion that we have of ourselves and shift, and I believe that you're going to see a different person rise.
Absolutely. Well, and to your point, before you can trust the opinion of yourself, you have to make sure you're giving yourself an accurate opinion,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So oftentimes, sometimes we're trusting the opinion of ourself, which is a false narrative. It's that we're not good enough. We are the divorced. We are the this. We are the that. But I love this idea of getting in that right headspace, and then the confidence is trusting that you've got it, that you're smart enough, capable enough, et
Yeah.
cetera. You said something really interesting that I hadn't thought about before. So I spend a lot of time in this space as well. What you define as stuck, I always say that's drift. And you mentioned it beautifully because ironically, we think we're stuck, which would imply that we're not moving. And yet the reality is time and motion continue. So we're moving. Time is continuing to go by, right? Those
Yeah.
days, months, years are continuing.
Yeah.
Um, Even though we're kind of on this rinse and repeat, thinking we're stuck, we're drifting, I would call it. But you said something I hadn't thought about before, that the ideas that you inherit about yourself. So, how you identify, I think a lot about perceptions create self talk, which creates behavior, right?
Yes.
I hadn't thought about it from the perspective of some of those perceptions we've inherited. Can you talk a little bit more about that as well?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So we all have been raised in an environment, whomever raised you. And that person influenced how you think. And because of some of the things that they have said, you have leveraged it and you've become successful.
Mhm.
But as you grow and take on your own identity, you are still holding on to what they said and you haven't evaluated it. So now you're a senior leader, and that thought, idea, opinion no longer serves you. But you don't
Right.
even realize it's not serving you. And so you haven't taken inventory of
Mm.
where you are mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Sometimes we do financially. It's not my area, but in those areas, and recognize how much you have grown and the fact that what got you here doesn't necessarily need to take you here, or it won't, or
Right.
you will still be back here, but you'll be operating here. A
Mhm.
promotion does not guarantee that you've done the work. It simply means that you have intellectual property, or you've leveraged a relationship to get where you are.
Mhm. It gets back to the comment you made, "Who am I now?" I mean, there's something powerful about not just who am I, but who am I now, and that, that evolution, that growth, that what may have served me in the past doesn't serve me, or it may serve you going forward, but oftentimes as we grow, there's another thing that when I was looking at your books and learning more about you in advance, and I thought this was really interesting. You teach women to become more likable,
Mhm.
marketable, and credible. I want to talk about likable for just a minute because I feel like that is one where it can be a little controversial, right? It's a little provocative, especially for women who are told to smile, to not be angry, to not be bitchy, whatever the,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
question, right?
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I have a feeling that when you say likable, you mean it in a very specific context. I'd love to know more about that.
Absolutely. So it's interesting that you say that because I do get pushback from women on the word likable. But the reality is somebody has to like you in order to promote you. You are
Right?
not where you are because people didn't like you. And so we can play on words. I didn't say likability means that you smile. I didn't
Right.
say likability means that you don't have an opinion or that you show up in the room in a particular way. What likability means is I understand the landscape. I understand
Mhm.
what's going on in the room. I understand how to package, position, and promote myself in a way that people see, and like what they see in my
Right.
capability.
Right.
And that's very different. I think that the problem isn't the word, it's how we have interpreted the word, just as one of the biggest challenges going back to the pattern is about not what happened, but how we interpreted what happened.
Mhm. Mhm. Absolutely. I love that you address it so plainly, and it's, let's not wordsmith this, and you're right. If you can be very capable and very smart and very accomplished and all the things, and if your delivery is off-putting, or if you are, running people over, male or female,
Yeah.
and you don't have likability, then that is a factor. So, we can dance around it, or we can just call it what it is. And so
Yeah.
I love that we address that, and that you are firm in your footing about what that means and why that's important, instead of sugarcoating it.
Yeah, and we have to understand why people like us. People
Mm,
don't like us because we smile. People
right.
don't like us because we tell them what they wanna hear. People like us because we bring value to their life.
Mm,
And
yeah.
so, if you're bringing value, that means that you are showing up in the truth of who you are.
Hmm.
So
Absolutely.
so that's another piece around likability and the word and I also think, and I don't know if you, Dr. Cynthia, find this in your work. Sometimes as women, we are so busy fighting the small stuff that we don't embrace the big ideas and the big
Mm,
opportunities.
hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Where do you see that? Where do you see that show up?
Everywhere.
Right. Right. W
Everywhere from entry level all the way, whether it's corporate, whether it's nonprofit, whether it's
Mhm.
um or church, it doesn't matter.
Right.
We have a tendency to fight the fight that we've already won.
Mm. Right.
And then
Right.
there's a new fight now. There are ceilings that have been broken, and
Mhm.
there's a new one. And so when we think about what are we really fighting at this point? What are the things that are really important? Where are the areas of my growth that are most needed?
Mhm.
When we look at those are the big rocks.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. One of the things that we found in our research on with Now Near Next is that women in particular are just not as intentional focusing on the development of their potential, leaning into their potential, et cetera. And what we found was that, a large part of it is that we put it off because we're carrying a large load, right?
Yeah.
Regardless if you have children, don't have children, we find somebody to pour into, and it's usually somebody other than ourselves. How do you help those that you work with, et cetera, to recognize and create space to figure out that identity, to do that self assessment of your gifts and talents? Because before you can even begin to package them, and we'll get into all of the incredible things around personal branding, you kind of have to do the inner work, which means that you have to create space for yourself. How have you been able to get women to do that?
Yeah, yeah, that's a good question. So right now I'm I have engaged a cohort around living what's next. And so when I think about the people that are in that cohort and why they would invest in themselves and why they because there's 15 days between each session where they're doing
Hmm.
a lot of deep diving into their own work. I mean, certainly there's resources, there's videos, etc., but they have to do a lot of the work. And when I think about where they are, every single one of them is in and transition.
Mm,
And so one of the things that I've learned, and then I'm coaching some, there's in particular, there's a senior exec that I'm coaching that she's not in transition, but she wants to be.
right.
And so when we get to a point, just as I was when I was fired from a job, my fiance walked out of my life. The doctor, diagnosed me as being depressed. I was in a transition. And when
Hmm.
we are in transitions, we are looking for answers. As long as things are going okay,
Right.
reasonably well, we continue on that path,
Right.
right? And so I think I don't really get them to do it. I
Yeah.
think life does.
Right. Right. And it's an incredible point, and it gets back to where our thought leadership really integrates is this idea of stop drifting. So my theory, my hope for the world, for the woman who's listening, is don't wait to collide into the rocks before you start focusing on who you are now,
Yeah.
living into your potential, understanding what's inside you. We often That's exactly right. That's been my experience, and what we found in the research as well.
Yeah.
When you have your job eliminated, or you go through a divorce or an unexpected transition, and then you sort of have to. I want the woman listening right now who's loves their job, loves their boss, loves their company, right?
Yes.
Loves their current circumstances. I want you, woman, right now to still say, what is my next? And how do I do my day job with excellence while still learning to live into that next thing?
Yes. And a part of that, this is really important, uh, Dr. Cynthia, and you said it about around you need to start looking now. Because
Mhm.
what I see that people often do is even if they get the promotion, they take the old leadership style and
Right.
capability into this new role.
Mhm.
And then they're
Mhm.
overwhelmed and or they're having challenges with their team. There is an expectation as you continue to excel in your role that you are growing and changing, not just in competence, right? But in
Mhm.
clarity of who you are. And I think that that is one of those challenges that women face. They become more competent, they get more skills, they're doing their reading. But the clarity of who I am now in this moment and who I'm becoming and
Mm.
who I need to be for this space is really what's missing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I absolutely. It's really that self-introspective work, um, and it's not a one and done because, you know, we're all blessed that we're growing and evolving. I mean, we should be, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Growing and evolving and changing. I want to switch gears for a minute because you do so much work around personal brand. That personal brand is not a marketing exercise. I want to sort of tether the two things together. I loved this element I found in my research around you secured a television host and spokesperson position for at UPN Philadelphia without a single class in journalism. Now, I have an undergrad in broadcasting and film, and I didn't land a role like that. So, I'm props to you. Um,
Thank you.
but here's where I wanna pull that through
Yeah.
because what I'm finding right now
Uh-huh.
is there's so many people in transition to that earlier point,
Mhm.
and we get so narrow in our thinking about what is possible for us next. So, for the woman listening that was in healthcare and was laid off, and so now it's like, I have to find this job in healthcare, and we create these really narrow spaces.
Yeah.
Talk about, pull that through from your own experience. You went and sold yourself, got hired to do this role. You knew something inside of you that would not have necessarily been on a resume. But
Yeah.
that's applicable for so many people that are in transition right now that are limiting themselves based on a very narrow view of their potential.
Yeah, so there's, 2 pieces there, and I have to give the first one credit, and so no matter what you believe in, I believe in God, and I believe that he gave me a vision that this is would be the work I would do in the world. I went from different stations, and they told me, "You look good, you sound great, but you need to work in a smaller market." And I refuse to accept that because Philadelphia is the 4th largest market in the US. Um, there was a lot of pushback because I didn't have, quote, "the experience." And one day I was just flipping through the channels, and I saw this young lady hosting a show, and something rose within me and said, "You're gonna host that show." The credits ran when they did. I wrote down the executive producer's name and I called the station. I asked for her by name. They they sent me through and she said, "Send your reel." And because I had been a QVC, not host, I was a QVC model, and I had spent some time being a spokesperson for different companies. So
Okay.
I sent the reel up. I called her several times. She says, "Don't call me again. I will call you." And, she called about 3 months later, and she said, "Come up, for a role as a roving reporter." It's like man on the street. You've
Mhm.
seen the people that go out. And, I was like and she said, "You'll put together a package." I was like, "A package? I've never done a package.
Right.
Wait,
Right.
I don't even know how to do this." But I
Right.
went anyway. I went anyway. And, so she said, "You're gonna go out and you're going to cover the Philadelphia Film Festival." And, I went out and I had a camera person with me and I am lost. I am lost.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so, I just started looking around and figuring out, okay, what do I say on camera that would be compelling for for the viewers to wanna come down?
Mhm.
So, I put together an intro and an out, and what I didn't know, the gentleman was gonna do the B-roll, and he took B-roll. We went back to the studio, and before I was back home, which was an hour and a half to hour 45-minute drive, she called me. She said, "We wanna make you the host, producer, and spokesperson of the entire station."
Oh my word.
Yeah, that's how that happened. So I guess I didn't do too good on the intro and outs, but I looked good enough to be on camera, and so and this is the thing, this is the lesson, is
Right.
sometimes we eliminate ourselves because we don't think we can do the job, which I didn't either, but they weren't looking for me to do that job. They were
Mhm.
looking to see how I look and how I sound on camera for a host position, which is something I felt confident I could do.
Right. Right. There are many lessons in that. I mean, the
Yeah.
reality is, first and foremost, whatever your true north is, whether that is, you're a Christian, whatever your spiritual belief, faith tradition, manifestation, etc.
Yeah.
Starting with that sort of bigger belief and sense of purpose, you believed enough in yourself and what drew you. You understood your passion. You understood the fundamental things that could carry over. That you're articulate, that you are comfortable in front of a camera, that right, whatever that is for you. And so for the person listening, are you extremely organized? Are you incredibly creative? Are you very super strategic? Are you great at conflict resolution? What are the non teachables, which really gets back to that what's inside you, that
Yeah.
potential?
Yeah.
Those are the things that carry regardless of industry, et cetera, and allow you to say, well, if I'm a naturally creative person and I really want to do something completely differently than I've done, how does that then, when you talk about this specific framework for packaging, positioning, and promoting yourself in the workplace,
Yeah.
how do we carry that then through in terms of the person listening? How should they differently think about packaging, positioning, and promoting themselves?
Yeah, that's a good question because everyone is in a different place, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are some people who really understand packaging, and a part of that is how you show up, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's your package. That's what people see. That's what
Right.
people how people are immediately drawn to you. And certainly that includes how you wear your hair, how your makeup, your or if you don't wear makeup, what you decide to how you decide to dress, how you speak, all of those, your attitude,
Right.
all of those are a part of that package.
Mm-hmm.
And then how are you going to position it? Meaning, who is my audience? Who am I talking to? What is it that they're after? What do they
Mm-hmm.
want? What is appetizing to them? That doesn't mean that you become a chameleon and you become everything to everybody. It means that you show up in your truth in front of
Mm-hmm.
the audience that you are attempting to speak to. And now you're positioning your value to them based on what they need and or what they want. And well,
Mm-hmm.
more of what they want first, because sometimes people don't know what they need. I received a text from one of the cohorts this morning, actually, just before we started talking. And it said, I don't have it in here, my phone, but it said something to the effect of, "You are speaking to me exactly based on the season that I'm in,"
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
And she went on to say that while part of it she knew and understood that she was in, part of it she didn't. I'm offering her or introducing her to an element of her life that she needs that she didn't realize she needs.
Right.
But people
Right.
first respond to what they want or think they need. So being
Mm-hmm.
able to tap into that based on what you have to offer, and then putting it out there. Excuse me. Oftentimes we are thinking, oh, what does it look like? Oh, it's not perfect. Yeah, 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 yeah. Right?
Right.
We're going through
Yes.
all of these semantics, and I call them mental calisthenics.
Right. Right. I love that.
And so you don't have to go through all that. Just put yourself out there, and each iteration will get better.
Mhm.
And you'll learn from your mistakes. And you'll
Yeah.
learn, and I won't even call them mistakes. You'll learn from your lessons, and you'll learn what speaks, what doesn't speak, etc. And I want to share this with you really quick about putting yourself out there.
Mhm.
So my first book was released on in 2025. There is more inside on the same day of my first big paid speaking engagement. And it was about maybe 150 to 200 state workers. And they purchased the book, and then a friend looked at the book because I had literally got received the books the day before my speaking engagement. You
Wow.
know how that happens,
I
right?
do, yes, yeah.
It's like you're
Yes.
rushing to get it done and edited, you're doing all this
Y
stuff,
yeah.
and it was wrecked with errors.
Mm,
I was done, kinda. I took it off the market, I made the updates, and I moved on. There was no one who said to me, "Oh, it's Renee, I just didn't like your book because it had so many errors." In fact, even my second book, The Bridge to Your Brand, if you go and look at one of the reviews, it says something like, "Really like this book. It could use another editing, but I wouldn't let that bother you because the content is good."
mm,
And so while and, now that I've grown and understand how to do a book, I know the steps because I've done 7 of them, and I worked with
right.
Wiley, and I worked with, at the time it was Callisto Media, but now it's Source Books. So I've signed book deals, and I really understand the process much differently. But even back then, I was willing to take a chance on Renee Smith.
Mhm. Ugh,
And
absolutely.
and my first book has sold, I believe, to this day, outside of the book deals, more copies than any other book I've written.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh my goodness. I just wanna pause on that though. I mean, the powerful sentiment, you took a chance on S. Renee Smith. And if you're gonna take a chance on anyone, w your best bet is taking that chance on yourself. Right?
Mhm.
And yet, so often that's the hardest one to take. It, hearkening all the way back to what are we telling ourselves and, what's that mental model of who we are now and what part of us serves us now and then taking a chance on that person, having the confidence. I love that because that really becomes the I think that becomes the aspiration for every single one of us is be in a place where where you know yourself well enough that you can take a chance on you.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh,
You know
so
yourself
beautiful.
well enough to take a chance on you. Yeah.
Right, right. One of the things, with 7 books under your belt, which is an enormous accomplishment. I'm over here with 2 and I'm, worn out with a third, kind of in development, but,
Yeah.
you've evolved a lot as well. You started really from self-esteem and personal branding,
Yeah.
and then you've gotten into a lot deeper as you've gotten into this identity alignment and legacy, and I think we've talked a lot about that, but is that really the core? Talk about sort of that journey. It feels like it's sort of still tethered together though. It starts with that self-esteem, right? But you're really looking at what is the legacy that you're developing and leaving. I just would love for you
Yeah.
to comment on that.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for that. So, I don't think it starts now that I've grown, I don't think it starts anymore with self-esteem.
Mm,
Think it starts with understanding your pattern that
mm,
creates a behavior that impacts the way you show up, that impacts your self-esteem because of the
mhm,
way people respond to you,
mhm, mhm,
right? So now we're getting to not that I feel like I don't have self-esteem because I don't speak up, not because I feel like I don't have confidence because, I won't go after that promotion. I'm understanding the pattern over the course of my life and what is driving it. What was
mhm.
that thing that was said? It's not an attack on a person,
Right.
it is an awareness of how you interpreted and you communicate the story.
Mhm.
Because sometimes the person who said what they said meant nothing like the way you interpreted it.
Right.
But if you
Right.
understand the way you interpreted the story, you can understand how it's impacting you, which means then that you're in emerging awareness and
Mhm.
that you can discern what is happening and you can reorient yourself,
Right.
right? And
Yes.
then you can move into commitment without closure. You don't need closure. I don't need you to apologize. I don't need to
Mhm.
understand what you meant.
Right.
I
Right.
don't need to know why you left me.
Right. Right. Ship has sailed.
Exactly. I don't need any of that because the truth of who I am lies within me.
Mm.
And I know what it is. I
Mm.
can feel it. I know where I'm meant to be. I can
Right.
confidently knock on this door and know that it's gonna open, and if it doesn't, it's not necessarily the wrong door, it may be the wrong timing, but this is what I know for sure. There is another door.
Right. Right. So big part of it, and I love this, it's almost this cause and effect as well as the cycles that we get ourselves into. Your point about not starting with the self esteem as an example, but saying, where are the patterns that are informing my perceptions, my self talk, my ultimate behavior, then people react to that reinforces this narrative. So, for the person listening that's saying, I really need to figure out what those patterns are, in addition to working with you. So, let's talk about the work that you do for the woman that says, I need an S. Renee in my life to help me figure out these patterns. The book you would direct them to, where do they start?
Yeah, so several places they can start depending on where you are on the journey. If you say, "S. Renee, I have really enjoyed this conversation with you and Dr. Cynthia, and I want to learn more about your work." You can go to livingwhatsnext.com and you can download a free ebook that is Who Are You Now? That's the title of it, and it
Love it.
takes you through some steps and reflective questions that are going to help stir some things in you and get you on your path. The second piece is, how do I work with us, Renee? Well, there is a Live in What's Next cohort that takes my framework that I built around identity. It takes you from identity all the way through legacy, and that actually starts in September of 2020. Well, it's already started, but the next cohort starts in September. And so if you go to livingwhatsnext.com, you can find it there. And then if you say, I just want coaching, I'd love to have some one on one time. Of course, you can go to srenee.com and find me there. So and I think that probably making it even simpler, srenee at srenee.com. Shoot me an email, srenee, wanna talk.
Right.
And
Right.
you can get a link to my calendar, get on my calendar, and we can just have a get to know you session to see where you're at and what would be the best path for you. Because
Mm,
sometimes when we're having generic and general conversations, we believe that this is the path for you. Oh, you can take this program or you can do this when that's not it at all. The conversation uncovers a totally different place that you're in and that you're trying to navigate. So that's what I would recommend.
I think that's amazing. And there's so many ways to get to you directly. There's some self work that they can do through the books that are available, in wherever great books are sold, and you can find those as well. I want to take a moment and just pause and speak directly to the woman listening right now because I want to name something. And that is what S. Renee just described, the woman who is delivering, recognized, and privately aware that she's not yet become all that she's capable of being. That is potential drift. That is what it looks like from the inside. In my framework, potential is not about ambition, it's about the gap between who you are and who you're becoming. When growth flatlines, when you're performing excellence on repeat but not growing past it, when the version of you that is more capable, more aligned, more you keeps waiting, what S. Renee calls the distance between your current brand and what's inside you, I call the cost of drifting in potential. And what she's built, a proven system to close that gap, is the most concrete operationalization of potential that I've encountered. Not inspiration, not aspiration, a documented process, y'all, with 113% income outcome if you do the work. So there's so many reasons to start working on your future today. Stop kicking the can down the road. This is the moment that you choose to unapologetically, guilt free, invest in you and really get clear on who you are now and that identity to move from identity to legacy. I love it. As Renee, we always end with a big question to our guests, which
Yeah,
is, what is one small thing? Because
yeah,
if we have to overhaul our lives, we put it off.
yeah,
But if it's one small thing the person listening can do today
yeah,
to better lean into their potential, what would that be?
yeah. Whoa. That's a big question. And I
Yes.
think that reflective work is what gets you there. And
Mm,
so, Who Are You Now ebook is the best step that you can take because it costs you nothing but your time and your commitment to yourself.
absolutely. As Renee, you have been a blessing. I have enjoyed this conversation, getting to know you kind of leading up to our time today. Thank you for the work that you do. Thank you for helping women around the globe to really understand who they are and what they're capable of and the potential they have to share. I think we all have a responsibility to live into our God-given gifts and talents, and you're helping people do that one woman at a time. So thank you.
Absolutely. And I just want to pause if I have a moment to thank you. Thank you for the work that you're doing. Thank you for creating a platform for other people to share the work that they're doing because you yourself could take this platform and use it all for yourself. You have enough intellectual property experience to be able to do that. But instead,
You.
you said, I'm going to share. I'm going to share
Yeah.
myself. I'm going to share my platform with other people. So I say thank you to you. And I celebrate the work that you're doing that is so meaningful and powerful and transformational in women's lives.
Thank you so much. We're better together. We lift each other up, and I'm a big fan of an abundance mentality. Right?
Yeah.
There's so much wealth of knowledge and information, and if the woman listening gets pieces and parts from my work, from your work, from the work of so many incredible guests, then we're doing the right thing. We're advancing this. We're advancing women all around the world. So thank you, and thank you for tuning in once again, sharing your precious time with us today. Until next time, I've got you and you've got this. Congratulations on choosing to invest in yourself. I know your time is precious. Thank you for spending it here with me. I believe in helping you look up, step forward, and fully realizing your potential. If today's conversation resonated, I'd be so grateful if you'd rate and comment on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen. And if you know someone who would benefit, please share this episode with them. Let's stay connected. Visit me at dr-cynthia.com, and you can find me on all the socials at Dr. Cynthia Bentzen-Mercer. Until next time, remember, boldly start working on your future today.